Bonanza is an NBC television Western series that ran from September 12, 1959, to January 16, 1973, lasting 14 seasons and 431 episodes. It ranks as the second longest-running Western series, and within the top 10 longest-running live-action American series. The show continues to air in syndication. The show is set around the 1860s and it centers on the wealthy Cartwright family, who live in the area of Virginia City, Nevada, bordering Lake Tahoe. The series stars Lorne Greene, Dan Blocker, Michael Landon, Pernell Roberts, and later David Canary and Mitch Vogel. The title, Bonanza, is a term used by miners in regard to a large vein or deposit of ore, and commonly refers to the Comstock lode. In 2002, Bonanza was ranked No. 43 on TV Guide's 50 Greatest TV Shows of All Time, and in 2013 TV Guide included it in its list of the 60 Greatest Dramas of All Time. The time period for the television series is roughly between 1861 to 1867, during and shortly after the American Civil War. During the summer of 1972, NBC aired reruns of episodes from the 1967 to 1970 period in prime time on Tuesday evening under the title Ponderosa. Premise: the show chronicles the weekly adventures of the Cartwright family, headed by the thrice-widowed patriarch Ben Cartwright. He had 3 sons, each by a different wife. The eldest was the urbane architect Adam Cartwright, who built the ranch house. The second was the warm and lovable giant Eric Hoss Cartwright, and the youngest was the hot-headed and impetuous Joseph, or Little Joe. Via exposition and flashback episodes, each wife was accorded a different ethnicity: English, Swedish and French Creole respectively. The family's cook was the Chinese immigrant Hop Sing. Greene, Roberts, Blocker, and Landon were billed equally. The opening credits would alternate the order among the 4 stars. The family lived on a 600,000-plus acre ranch called the Ponderosa on the eastern shore of Lake Tahoe in Nevada. The vast size of the Cartwrights' land was quietly revised to 500,000 acres on Lorne Greene's 1964 song, Saga of the Ponderosa. The ranch name refers to the ponderosa pine, common in the West. Bonanza was considered an atypical Western for its time, as the core of the storylines dealt less about the range but more with Ben and his 3 dissimilar sons, how they cared for one another, their neighbors, and just causes. You always saw stories about family on comedies or on an anthology, but Bonanza was the first series that was week to week about a family and the troubles it went through. Bonanza was a period drama that attempted to confront contemporary social issues. That was very difficult to do on television. Most shows that tried to do it failed because the sponsors didn't like it, and the networks were nervous about getting letters, explains Stephen Battaglio, a senior editor for TV Guide magazine. Episodes ranged from high drama to broad comedy, and addressed issues such as the environment, substance abuse, domestic violence, anti-war sentiment, and illegitimate births. The series sought to illustrate the cruelty of bigotry against Asians, African Americans, Native Americans, Jews, Mormons, the disabled and little people. Originally, the Cartwrights tended to be depicted as put off by outsiders. Lorne Greene objected to this, pointing out that as the area's largest timber and livestock producer, the family should be less clannish. The producers agreed with this observation and changed the Cartwrights to be more amiable. Cast: though not familiar stars in 1959, the cast quickly became favorites of the first television generation. The order of billing at the beginning of the broadcast appeared to be shuffled randomly each week, with no relation whatsoever to the current episode featured that week. The main cast of actors portraying Cartwrights is listed here in the order of their characters' ages, followed by an array of recurring supporting players. Lorne Greene, Ben Cartwright, born in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, to Russian Jewish parents. Lorne Greene was chosen to play widowed patriarch Ben Cartwright. Early in the show's history, he recalls each of his late wives in flashback episodes. A standard practice with most westerns was to introduce some romance but avoid matrimony. Few media cowboys had on-screen wives. Anytime one of the Cartwrights seriously courted a woman, she died from a malady, was abruptly slain, or left with someone else. Greene appeared in all but 12 Bonanza episodes. Greene was 44 years old at the beginning of the series, while Pernell Roberts and Dan Blocker, who portrayed two of his sons, were both 31, only 13 years younger. In 2007, a TV Guide survey listed Ben Cartwright as television's #2 favorite dad. Pernell Roberts, Adam Cartwright, born in Waycross, Georgia. Pernell Roberts played eldest son Adam, an architectural engineer with a university education. Adam built the impressive ranch house. Roberts disdained the assembly line mindset of serial television, and fought with series writers regarding Adam's lack of independence, noting that his 30-plus-year-old character was dependent on his pa's approval. Despite the show's success, Roberts departed the series after the 1964-65 season and returned to stage productions. Attempts to replace Adam with Little Joe's maternal half-brother Clay and Cartwright cousin Will were unsuccessful. Creator David Dortort introduced a storyline that would keep the character of Adam in the mix, but with a lighter schedule. During season 5, Adam falls for a widow with a young daughter, while making Will Cartwright a central figure. Roberts decided to stay an additional season, so the scripts were quickly revised by having Adam's fiancée and her daughter depart the series prematurely with Guy Williams' Will, with whom she'd fallen in love. It was Landon, not Roberts, who objected to the infusion of any new Cartwrights. After Roberts did leave the following year, it was eventually mentioned that Adam had gone to sea, and in the later movies he had emigrated to Australia. In mid-1972, the series producers considered inviting Roberts back in the wake of Dan Blocker's death. One suggestion was to return Pernell Roberts, who had played another Cartwright son when Bonanza first hit the airwaves 14 years ago. "We only considered that briefly," producer Richard Collins says. Some people felt it was a logical step, the oldest son returning at a time of family need, but most of us didn't think it would work. Dan Blocker. Eric Hoss Cartwright. Dan Blocker was 6'4", 320 pounds when chosen to play the gentle middle son Eric, better known as Hoss. The nickname was used as a nod to the character's ample girth, an endearing term for big and friendly, used by his Swedish mother. In the Bonanza flashback, his mother Inga names him Eric after her father. To satisfy young Adam, Inga and Ben agree to try the nickname Hoss and see which one sticks. Inga says of Hoss, "In the mountain country, that is the name for a big, friendly man." According to a biography, the show's crew found Blocker to be the least actorish as well as the most likable cast member. According to producer David Dortort, "Over the years he gave me the least amount of trouble." In May 1972, Blocker died suddenly from a post-operative pulmonary embolism following surgery to remove his gallbladder. The producers felt nobody else could continue the role. It was the first time a TV show's producers chose to kill off a major male character. Not until the TV movie Bonanza: The Next Generation was it explained that Hoss had drowned attempting to save a woman's life. Michael Landon. Joseph Little Joe Cartwright. The role of Little Joe was given to Michael Landon, who had earlier played a titular role in I Was a Teenage Werewolf. He portrayed the youngest, feistiest Cartwright son, whose mother was of French Creole descent. Landon began to develop his skills in writing and directing Bonanza episodes. Starting with The Gamble, most of the episodes Landon wrote and directed were dramas, including the 2-hour Forever, which was recognized by TV Guide as being one of television's best specials. Landon's development was a bit stormy according to David Dortort. who felt that the actor grew more difficult during the last 5 seasons the show ran. Landon appeared in all but 14 Bonanza episodes for its runs, a total of 416 episodes. Beginning in 1962, a foundation was being laid to include another son, as Pernell Roberts was displeased with his character. In the episode Firstborn, viewers learn of Little Joe's older, maternal half-brother Clay Stafford. The character departed in that same episode, but left an opportunity for a return if needed. This character's paternity is open to debate. In the 1963 flashback episode, Marie, My Love, his father was Jean de Marigny. Then in 1964, Lorne Greene released the song, Saga of the Ponderosa, wherein Marie's previous husband was Big Joe Collins, who dies saving Ben's life. After Ben consoles Marie, the two bond and marry. They choose to honor Big Joe by calling their son Little Joe. So, whether to Stafford, de Marigny or Collins, Marie Cartwright was previously married. In the last of the 3 Bonanza TV movies, it is revealed that Little Joe had died in the Spanish-American War. A member of the Rough Riders, Ray Teal, Sheriff Roy Coffey veteran character actor Ray Teal essayed the role of Sheriff Roy Coffey on 98 episodes from 1960 to 1972. He appeared in more than 250 movies and some 90 television programs during his 37-year career. His longest-running role was as Sheriff Roy Coffey. He had also played a sheriff in the Billy Wilder film Ace in the Hole. Teal co-starred in numerous TV westerns throughout his career. He appeared 5 times on Cheyenne, twice on The Lone Ranger, on The Alaskans, a short-lived series starring Roger Moore, 3 times in different roles on another long-running western series, Wagon Train, on NBC's Tales of Wells Fargo with Dale Robertson, on the ABC Western series Broken Arrow, 5 times on the ABC Western comedy Maverick starring James Garner and Jack Kelly, on the CBS Western series The Texan with Rory Calhoun, the NBC Western series The Californians, twice on Colt 45 with Wade Preston, once on Wanted, Dead or Alive with Steve McQueen and as Sheriff Clay for a single 1960 episode of the NBC Western series Riverboat with Darren McGavin, and 4 times on a Western series about the rodeo entitled The Wide Country. Teal was a bit part player in Western films for several years before landing a substantial role in Northwest Passage starring Spencer Tracy. Another of his roles was as Little John in The Bandit of Sherwood Forest. Notable film roles include playing one of the judges in Judgment at Nuremberg with Spencer Tracy, and an indulgent bar owner to Marlon Brando's motorcycle gang in The Wild One, which was the second of 3 times that Teal appeared with Brando, having done so already as a drunk in Brando's debut in The Men and later in Brando's only directorial effort, One-Eyed Jacks, as a bartender. Sheriff Coffey was occasionally the focus of a plot as in the episode No Less a Man. A gang of thieves has been terrorizing towns around Virginia City and the town council wants to replace Coffey, whom they consider over the hill, with a younger sheriff before the gang hits town, not realizing that they'd been spared earlier because the gang's leader was wary of Coffey's longevity and only acquiesced to rob the Virginia City bank after extreme pressure from other gang members. Coffey ends up showing the town that youth and a fast gun don't replace experience. David Canary, Candy, Canaday. After graduating from the University of Cincinnati, David Canary was offered a left-end position with the Denver Broncos, but pursued acting and singing. In 1967, he joined the cast as Candy, Canaday, a plucky army brat turned cowboy, who became the Cartwrights' confidant, ranch foreman, and timber vessel captain. Dortort was impressed by Canary's talent, but the character vanished in September 1970, after Canary had a contract dispute. He returned 2 seasons later after co-star Dan Blocker's death, reportedly having been approached by London. Canary played the character on a total of 91 episodes. Canary joined the cast in Season 9. Victor Sen-young, Hop-sing. Chinese-American actor Victor Sen-young played the Cartwright's happy-go-lucky cook, whose blood pressure rose when the family came late for dinner. Cast here as the faithful domestic, the comedy relief character had little to do beyond chores. He once used martial arts to assail a towering family foe. Though often referenced, Hop-sing only appeared in an average of 8 to 9 shows each season. As a semi-regular cast member, Sen-young was only paid per episode. After 14 years, he was widely known, but making far less than his Ponderosa peers. The Hop-sing character was central in only 2 episodes, Mark of Guilt, and The Lonely Man. Mitch Vogel, Jamie Hunter, Cartwright. After Canary's departure in mid-1970, and aware of the show's aging demographic, the writers sought a fresh outlet for Ben's fatherly advice. 14-year-old Mitch Vogel was introduced as Jamie Hunter in Season 12 and 363rd episode, A Matter of Faith. Vogel played the red-haired orphan of a roving rainmaker, whom Ben takes in and adopts later in a 1971 episode called A Home for Jamie. Tim Matheson, Griff King. During the final season, in 1972-1973, Tim Matheson portrayed Griff King, a parolee who tries to reform his life as a worker at the Ponderosa Ranch under Ben Cartwright's tutelage. Episodes. Broadcast history. Saturday at 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. on NBC. September 12, 1959, June 3, 1961. Sunday at 900 to 10 p.m. on NBC. September 24, 1961, April 2, 1972. Tuesday at 800 to 9 p.m. on NBC. September 12, 1972, January 16, 1973. Ratings. Initially, Bonanza aired on Saturday evenings opposite Perry Mason. Bonanza's ratings were dismal and the show was soon targeted for cancellation. NBC kept it because Bonanza was one of the first series to be filmed and broadcast in color, including scenes of picturesque Lake Tahoe, Nevada. NBC's corporate parent, Radio Corporation of America, used the show to spur sales of RCA-manufactured color television sets. NBC moved Bonanza to Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern with new sponsor Chevrolet. The new time slot caused Bonanza to soar in the ratings, and it eventually reached number 1 by 1964, an honor it would keep until 1967 when it was seriously challenged by the socially daring variety show, The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour on CBS. By 1970, Bonanza was the first series to appear in the top 5 list for 9 consecutive seasons and thus established itself as the most consistent, strong-performing hit television series of the 1960s. Bonanza remained high on the Nielsen ratings until 1971, when it finally fell out of the top 10. During the summer of 1972, NBC broadcast reruns of episodes of the show from the 1967 to 1970 era on Tuesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. under the title Ponderosa, while also rerunning more recent episodes on Sunday evenings in the show's normal time slot as Bonanza. In the fall of 1972, off-network episodes were released in broadcast syndication to local stations by NBC under the Ponderosa name. After the series was cancelled, the syndicated reruns reverted to the Bonanza name.